Emotional intelligence, often referred to as EI, is more than just a buzzword. It's the key to understanding how we navigate the complexities of our emotional world and how we connect with others. Unlike IQ, which measures cognitive abilities, emotional intelligence focuses on something far more personal and dynamic: our ability to recognize, understand, and manage our own emotions, while also being able to influence the emotions of those around us. In today's world, where stress and pressure seem to be constants, emotional intelligence has become a crucial skill, not just for personal well-being, but for thriving in every aspect of life, from relationships to the workplace. The essence of emotional intelligence lies in our capacity to respond to situations with insight and sensitivity, rather than reacting impulsively. It's what separates those who crumble under stress from those who manage to remain composed, even in the face of adversity. Think about the moments when you felt overwhelmed, perhaps at work, when a deadline loomed, or in a personal conflict where emotions were running high. It's easy to get swept away by anger, frustration, or anxiety, but those with high emotional intelligence have the ability to pause, assess, and choose a response that doesn't exacerbate the problem. They're able to navigate their emotional landscape with the same precision that a skilled sailor uses to steer a ship through a storm. But how does one develop such a skill? Emotional intelligence isn't something we're born with, like eye color or height. It's cultivated over time through reflection, experience, and, most importantly, practice. For some, the path to emotional intelligence might begin with a major life event, a traumatic experience or a personal setback that forces them to reassess their approach to emotions. For others, it's a gradual realization that their reactions, whether in relationships or at work, aren't serving them well. They notice the strain in their interactions, the missed opportunities, or the persistent feeling that life is more chaotic than it needs to be. At the core of emotional intelligence is the idea that our emotions, while powerful, are not beyond our control. Many of us go through life reacting to emotions as if they are uncontrollable forces of nature, like a sudden storm that catches us off guard. But with emotional intelligence, we learn that while we can't stop the storm, we can choose how to respond to it. This subtle shift, from being controlled by emotions to managing them, is what distinguishes emotionally intelligent individuals from those who struggle with their feelings. Consider the workplace, where emotional intelligence can be the difference between a chaotic environment and a thriving one. A manager with high emotional intelligence doesn't just focus on productivity or performance metrics. They pay attention to the emotional undercurrents within the team. When tensions rise, they're the first to step in, not with harsh discipline, but with empathy and understanding. They recognize that stress is inevitable, but how it's handled can either build trust and resilience or create divisions that linger long after the project is complete. In this way, emotional intelligence isn't just a soft skill, it's a critical component of leadership and success. The same principles apply in personal relationships. Think about the last argument you had with someone close to you. Maybe it was a spouse, a sibling, or a friend. Often these conflicts escalate not because of the issue at hand, but because of the emotional reactions they trigger. One person feels attacked, the other defensive, and before long, what could have been a simple disagreement turns into a full-blown argument. Those with emotional intelligence, however, can step back from the heat of the moment. They're able to recognize their own emotions, perhaps realizing that their anger is masking hurt or insecurity, and communicate more effectively. They can also empathize with the other person's perspective, diffusing tension and finding common ground. But emotional intelligence isn't just about keeping the peace or avoiding conflict. It's also about motivation, the drive that keeps us moving forward, even when the path is difficult. People with high emotional intelligence are often deeply motivated, not by external rewards like money or recognition, but by an inner desire to grow, achieve, and contribute. This intrinsic motivation is what allows them to persevere in the face of setbacks, to see challenges as opportunities rather than obstacles. It's what pushes them to keep going when others might give up. Developing emotional intelligence, however, requires more than just understanding its benefits. It takes deliberate effort and self-awareness. The first step is recognizing the patterns in your emotional responses. Do you find yourself reacting with frustration or anger when things don't go as planned? Do certain situations trigger anxiety or fear, making it hard for you to think clearly? Emotional intelligence begins with self-awareness, understanding your triggers and learning to pause before reacting. This pause, though brief, creates space for reflection, allowing you to choose a response rather than defaulting to an emotional reaction. This process of self-regulation is central to emotional intelligence. It's not about suppressing emotions or pretending they don't exist. On the contrary, emotionally intelligent individuals are deeply in touch with their feelings. The difference is that they don't let those feelings dictate their actions. Instead, they manage their emotions in a way that serves them rather than controls them. They know when to express frustration and when to hold back, when to speak up and when to remain silent. Empathy, too, is a cornerstone of emotional intelligence. It's the ability to not just understand, but to feel what someone else is going through. In a world that often feels increasingly disconnected, empathy bridges the gap between individuals. It allows us to connect on a deeper level, fostering relationships that are built on understanding and mutual respect. Whether in a professional setting or a personal relationship, empathy can transform interactions, turning potential conflicts into opportunities for growth. As we navigate a world that seems more stressful and fast-paced than ever, emotional intelligence offers a way to not just survive, but to thrive. It allows us to move through life with a sense of calm and purpose, even when things get tough. It's what enables us to connect deeply with others, to lead with integrity, and to live with a sense of balance and well-being. Emotional intelligence isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. And the best part, it's something we can all develop with time, effort, and a commitment to understanding ourselves and those around us. Emotional intelligence is a profound concept that goes far beyond the surface level of being able to read a room or keep your temper in check. It dives into the depths of our inner world, touching every aspect of who we are as human beings, how we perceive ourselves, how we relate to others, and how we navigate the inevitable challenges of life. Most of us, at some point, have been told to control our emotions, as though doing so were as simple as flipping a switch. But emotions are not like that. They are powerful, often uncontrollable forces that can sweep over us like waves, leaving us feeling powerless or reactive. Emotional intelligence offers a lifeline, teaching us that while we may not be able to stop those waves, we can learn to surf them. The first step toward developing emotional intelligence is to recognize that emotions are not our enemies. They are, in fact, essential signals that tell us about ourselves and our environment. Anger, sadness, joy, fear, each of these emotions carries a message, and emotional intelligence involves learning to listen to those messages without being overwhelmed by them. Most of us grow up in environments that teach us to suppress our emotions, to toughen up, or to hide how we feel for fear of being perceived as weak. Yet, ironically, it is those who have the courage to confront their emotions head-on who are often the strongest. Consider for a moment the last time you felt anger rising in your chest. Perhaps it was triggered by a colleague's thoughtless comment, a driver cutting you off in traffic, or a loved one's careless words. In those moments, it's easy to let anger take over, to lash out, to say things we don't mean, or to stew in resentment. But what if, instead of reacting impulsively, we paused? What if we took a moment to check in with ourselves, to ask, why am I really angry? Emotional intelligence invites us to step into that space, to create a buffer between stimulus and response. In that buffer, we find the opportunity to choose our reaction rather than letting it choose us. This isn't to say that emotional intelligence is about always staying calm or never feeling negative emotions. Quite the opposite. It's about feeling those emotions fully, understanding them, and then deciding how to respond. Anger, for instance, isn't inherently bad. It can be a sign that something is wrong, that a boundary has been crossed, or that we need to stand up for ourselves. But without emotional intelligence, anger can easily spiral into destructive behavior. When we develop the ability to pause, reflect, and channel that anger into constructive action, we transform it from something harmful into something that serves us. Emotional intelligence also allows us to better understand others, fostering empathy and deeper connections. In a world that often feels divided, where misunderstandings can escalate quickly into conflicts, the ability to empathize is invaluable. Empathy isn't about agreeing with someone else's perspective. It's about recognizing that their feelings, just like our own, are valid. It's about being able to step into their shoes, even if just for a moment, and seeing the world from their point of view. Think about the last time you were in a disagreement with someone. It could have been something small, like an argument over where to go for dinner, or something more significant, like a conflict with a friend or family member. In the heat of the moment, it's easy to become consumed by our own emotions, our frustration, our anger, our need to be right. But emotional intelligence encourages us to take a step back, to consider how the other person might be feeling. What might they be afraid of? What insecurities could be driving their behavior? This shift in perspective doesn't mean we abandon our own needs or opinions, but it helps us approach the situation with more compassion and less judgment. Empathy, however, is not just about kindness. It's also about effectiveness. When we understand the emotions of those around us, we're better equipped to navigate relationships, whether they're personal or professional. Leaders with high emotional intelligence, for example, are often more successful not because they're smarter in the traditional sense, but because they understand what motivates people. They recognize that behind every task is a person with fears, desires, and emotions, and they tailor their approach accordingly. In doing so, they inspire loyalty, trust, and cooperation. At the heart of emotional intelligence is self-awareness. It's the ability to recognize our own emotions as they arise, to understand what we're feeling and why we're feeling it. This might sound simple, but in practice, it's incredibly difficult. Many of us go through life on autopilot, reacting to situations without ever pausing to reflect on our emotional state. We might feel anxious without knowing why, or lash out in anger without realizing what triggered it. Self-awareness requires us to slow down, to turn our attention inward, and to become curious about our emotional landscape. This process of self-examination can be uncomfortable. It requires us to confront parts of ourselves that we might prefer to ignore, our fears, insecurities, and unprocessed pain. But it is through this discomfort that we grow. Emotional intelligence isn't about avoiding negative emotions. It's about learning to sit with them, to understand them, and to use them as tools for personal growth. When we become more self-aware, we also become more resilient. We learn that our emotions, while powerful, don't have to control us. Resilience in this context doesn't mean ignoring or suppressing our emotions. Instead, it's about learning to bounce back from emotional setbacks, to recover from disappointment, frustration, or loss, without becoming stuck in those feelings. Emotional intelligence gives us the tools to process our emotions in a healthy way, so that we can move forward without carrying the weight of unresolved feelings. This resilience is essential in a world that is often unpredictable and challenging. Life will always throw curveballs our way, whether it's a sudden job loss, the end of a relationship, or a global crisis like a pandemic. Those with emotional intelligence are better equipped to handle these challenges, not because they're immune to pain or fear, but because they've developed the ability to manage their emotions in a constructive way. As we cultivate emotional intelligence, we also begin to see how our emotions are connected to our thoughts and behaviors. There's a powerful feedback loop between what we feel, what we think, and how we act. For instance, if we're feeling anxious, we might start to have negative thoughts about a situation, believing that things will go wrong or that we're not capable of handling a challenge. These thoughts, in turn, fuel more anxiety, which can lead to behaviors like avoidance or procrastination. Emotional intelligence helps us break this cycle by recognizing the connection between our emotions, thoughts, and actions. When we become aware of the patterns, we can begin to disrupt them, choosing more constructive thoughts and behaviors that serve our well-being. Developing emotional intelligence isn't a one-time event. It's an ongoing practice. It requires us to be mindful of our emotional state in every moment, to constantly reflect on our reactions, and to make adjustments where necessary. Some days, this might feel easy, like when we're in a good mood or when things are going well. But on other days, when we're stressed, tired, or overwhelmed, it can feel nearly impossible. This is where the real work of emotional intelligence comes in. It's not about being perfect or always getting it right. It's about showing up for ourselves, again and again, even when it's hard. One of the most challenging aspects of emotional intelligence is learning to manage emotions in the heat of the moment. We've all been there. Something happens that triggers us, and before we know it, we're caught up in a whirlwind of emotions. In these moments, it can feel like our emotions are controlling us rather than the other way around. But emotional intelligence teaches us that, with practice, we can regain control. The key is to create a pause, a moment of awareness that allows us to step back from our emotions and assess the situation with a clear head. This pause doesn't have to be long. It might be as simple as taking a deep breath, counting to 10, or stepping away from the situation for a moment. In that brief pause, we can ask ourselves important questions. What am I feeling right now? Why am I feeling this way? What outcome do I want from this situation? These questions help us shift from a reactive state to a more thoughtful, intentional response. And over time, with practice, we can train ourselves to create this pause more naturally, even in the most emotionally charged moments. As we become more skilled at managing our emotions, we also become better at managing our relationships. Emotional intelligence isn't just about how we relate to ourselves, it's also about how we relate to others. Whether we're dealing with a difficult boss, a challenging partner, or a friend in need, our ability to understand and manage emotions plays a crucial role in the quality of our interactions. In fact, many of the conflicts and misunderstandings we experience in life stem from a lack of emotional intelligence, either our own or the other person's. When we develop emotional intelligence, we become better communicators, better listeners, and better problem solvers. At its core, emotional intelligence is about connection. It's about connecting with ourselves on a deeper level, understanding our own emotions, motivations, and needs, and using that understanding to connect more meaningfully with others. In a world that often feels disconnected, where technology and busy schedules can make it easy to drift apart from ourselves and those around us, emotional intelligence offers a path back to connection. It reminds us that our emotions are not something to be feared or avoided, but rather something to be embraced, understood, and harnessed for our growth and the betterment of our relationships. Emotional intelligence is not a destination, it's a journey. It's a lifelong practice of learning, growing, and evolving. And as we walk this path, we not only become better equipped to handle the challenges life throws our way, but we also become better, more compassionate human beings. Emotional intelligence also plays a crucial role in how we shape our identity and sense of self. At its core, emotional intelligence is about understanding and managing our emotions in a way that aligns with who we are and who we want to become. When we don't have emotional intelligence, we're often at the mercy of our emotions, swayed by every passing mood, every fleeting impulse. But when we cultivate emotional intelligence, we gain the ability to shape our emotions to support our goals and values. This doesn't mean suppressing how we feel or pretending to be something we're not. Instead, it's about recognizing how our emotions influence our behavior and making conscious choices about how we want to respond. Imagine for a moment someone who lacks emotional intelligence. This person might find themselves constantly reacting to situations in ways that don't serve them. Perhaps they lash out in anger when they feel disrespected, or they withdraw into themselves when they're feeling overwhelmed. Over time, these patterns of behavior can start to define their identity. They might begin to see themselves as the angry person or the person who can't handle stress. Without emotional intelligence, these emotional patterns can become self-fulfilling prophecies, shaping not only how we see ourselves, but also how others see us. Emotional intelligence, however, gives us the power to break free from these patterns. It allows us to step back from our emotions and ask ourselves, is this how I want to respond? Is this the person I want to be? In doing so, we can start to rewrite our emotional script, choosing responses that align with our values and the person we aspire to be. For instance, instead of lashing out in anger, we might choose to express our feelings in a more constructive way. Instead of withdrawing in the face of stress, we might choose to reach out for support or take proactive steps to manage the situation. These small choices, made consistently over time, can transform not only our emotional life, but also our sense of self. One of the most powerful aspects of emotional intelligence is its ability to help us transform our relationship with fear. Fear is one of the most primal emotions we experience, hardwired into our brains to protect us from danger. But in modern life, fear often manifests in ways that are less about physical survival and more about psychological and emotional safety. We might fear failure, rejection, or loss, and these fears can hold us back from pursuing our dreams, taking risks, or forming deep connections with others. Emotional intelligence doesn't eliminate fear, but it does help us change our relationship with it. Instead of seeing fear as something to avoid at all costs, we can start to see it as a signal, one that can guide us toward growth. When we feel fear, it's often because we're stepping outside our comfort zone, doing something that challenges us or requires us to stretch beyond what feels familiar. Emotional intelligence helps us recognize this and gives us the tools to move through fear rather than being paralyzed by it. For instance, consider someone who has a fear of public speaking. Without emotional intelligence, this fear might lead them to avoid any situation where they have to speak in front of others, reinforcing their belief that they're not capable of doing it. But with emotional intelligence, they can start to approach the fear differently. They might recognize that the fear is not a sign that they're incapable, but rather a natural response to doing something that feels challenging. Instead of avoiding the fear, they might choose to face it head-on, perhaps by practicing speaking in smaller groups or taking a public speaking course. Over time, as they build their skills and gain more experience, the fear may begin to subside, replaced by a sense of confidence and competence. This shift in perspective is a key part of emotional intelligence. It's about recognizing that emotions, even the difficult ones, are not something to be avoided or suppressed. Instead, they are signals that can help us learn, grow, and become more resilient. When we learn to listen to these signals without being overwhelmed by them, we gain the ability to navigate life's challenges with greater ease and effectiveness. Another crucial aspect of emotional intelligence is the ability to manage stress. In today's fast-paced world, stress is an inevitable part of life. Whether it's the pressure of work, the demands of family, or the constant barrage of information from technology, stress can easily become overwhelming. And when we're stressed, our emotional intelligence often goes out the window. We become reactive, impatient, and prone to making impulsive decisions that we later regret. But emotional intelligence gives us tools to manage stress more effectively. One of these tools is mindfulness, the practice of being fully present in the moment without judgment. When we're mindful, we're able to step back from our stress and observe it from a distance rather than being swept away by it. We can notice the physical sensations of stress in our body, the tightness in our chest, the racing of our heart, without getting caught up in the narrative of stress. This allows us to respond to stress in a more measured and intentional way, rather than reacting impulsively. For example, imagine someone who's feeling overwhelmed by a looming work deadline. Without emotional intelligence, they might find themselves spiraling into anxiety, ruminating on worst-case scenarios, and procrastinating out of fear. But with emotional intelligence, they can take a different approach. They might notice the physical signs of stress, the tension in their shoulders, the quickening of their breath, and use that as a signal to take a break, go for a walk, or practice deep breathing. By doing so, they create space for themselves to calm down and approach the task with a clearer mind. Emotional intelligence also helps us shift our mindset around stress. Instead of seeing stress as something inherently negative, we can start to see it as a challenge, something that, when managed effectively, can actually help us grow. Research has shown that people who view stress as a challenge rather than a threat are more likely to thrive in high-pressure situations. Emotional intelligence helps us make this mental shift, allowing us to approach stressful situations with a sense of curiosity and resilience rather than dread. This ability to manage stress is not only crucial for our emotional well-being, but also for our physical health. Chronic stress has been linked to a host of health problems, from heart disease to weakened immune function. By developing emotional intelligence, we not only improve our mental and emotional health, but also protect our bodies from the damaging effects of stress. In addition to stress management, emotional intelligence plays a vital role in our relationships. Whether it's with a partner, a friend, a colleague, or a family member, our ability to navigate the complexities of human interaction is deeply influenced by our emotional intelligence. When we're emotionally intelligent, we're better able to communicate our needs, listen to others, and resolve conflicts in a constructive way. Consider a situation where a couple is having a disagreement. Without emotional intelligence, this disagreement could quickly escalate into a full-blown argument, with both partners becoming defensive, blaming each other, and saying things they don't mean. But with emotional intelligence, the couple can approach the disagreement differently. They can recognize their own emotions and take responsibility for how they're feeling, rather than projecting blame onto the other person. They can listen to each other with empathy, trying to understand the other person's perspective, rather than just waiting for their turn to speak. And they can work together to find a solution that addresses both of their needs, rather than trying to win the argument. This kind of emotional intelligence doesn't come naturally to most of us. It requires practice, patience, and a willingness to be vulnerable. But the rewards are worth it. When we develop emotional intelligence in our relationships, we create deeper, more meaningful connections with the people around us. We build trust, foster understanding, and create a sense of emotional safety that allows our relationships to thrive. Emotional intelligence is also essential in the workplace. In today's increasingly collaborative work environments, technical skills alone are no longer enough to succeed. Employers are looking for people who can work well with others, manage their emotions in high-pressure situations, and navigate the complexities of team dynamics. Emotional intelligence is the key to developing these skills. For example, imagine a leader who lacks emotional intelligence. This leader might be brilliant at their job, with a deep knowledge of their field and a strong vision for the future. But if they can't manage their own emotions or empathize with the emotions of their team, they're likely to create a toxic work environment. They might become reactive under pressure, lashing out at employees when things go wrong, or they might be so focused on their own vision that they fail to listen to the concerns and ideas of their team, leading to disengagement and resentment. On the other hand, a leader with high emotional intelligence is able to manage their own emotions and respond to challenges with grace and composure. They listen to their team not just with their ears, but with their hearts, recognizing the emotional undercurrents that influence how people feel and behave. They create a work environment where people feel valued, heard, and supported, which in turn leads to higher levels of engagement, productivity, and innovation. Emotional intelligence is not just a soft skill. It's a critical component of leadership and success in the workplace. Research has shown that leaders with high emotional intelligence are more effective at managing teams, resolving conflicts, and driving organizational change. They're better at building relationships, inspiring trust, and creating a positive work culture. And in a world where work is increasingly collaborative and team-based, these skills are more important than ever. As we reflect on the power of emotional intelligence, it's clear that it touches every aspect of our lives. From how we manage our own emotions to how we relate to others, emotional intelligence is the key to living a more fulfilling, connected, and resilient life. It's not something we're born with. It's something we develop over time through practice, reflection, and a willingness to grow. And as we continue to cultivate our emotional intelligence, we not only transform ourselves, but we also create a ripple effect that transforms the world around us. Emotional intelligence also plays a critical role in how we process setbacks, failures, and disappointments. Life is full of challenges, and while some people seem to thrive under adversity, others struggle to cope when things go wrong. The difference often comes down to emotional intelligence, specifically how we manage our emotions in the face of failure. When we encounter failure, it triggers a flood of emotions: frustration, sadness, anger, and even shame. For those without emotional intelligence, these emotions can be overwhelming, leading to paralysis or destructive behaviors like blaming others, avoiding responsibility, or giving up entirely. Without the tools to process these feelings, we get stuck in a loop of negative emotions that prevent us from learning from the experience and moving forward. On the other hand, people with high emotional intelligence handle failure differently. They still feel the sting of disappointment. Emotional intelligence doesn't mean we stop feeling negative emotions, but rather than letting those feelings control them, emotionally intelligent people know how to navigate through them. They can step back from their emotions, examine them, and use them as a source of insight and motivation. This ability to reflect on emotions is critical because it helps us turn setbacks into opportunities for growth. Imagine someone who has just failed an important exam. A person with low emotional intelligence might immediately sink into despair, interpreting the failure as a reflection of their self-worth. "I'm not smart enough," they might think. "I'll never succeed." This kind of self-talk can lead to a downward spiral where failure becomes proof of inadequacy rather than a challenge to overcome. But a person with high emotional intelligence would approach the situation differently. They might still feel disappointed or frustrated, but instead of letting those emotions define them, they use them as a signal to reevaluate their approach. They might ask themselves, "What can I learn from this experience? What could I have done differently? How can I improve for next time?" By shifting the focus from blame to learning, they transform failure from a personal defeat into a stepping stone toward success. This mindset shift is at the heart of resilience, a trait that is deeply intertwined with emotional intelligence. Resilience isn't about avoiding hardship. It's about bouncing back from adversity stronger than before. And emotional intelligence provides the foundation for this process. By helping us manage our emotions, it allows us to remain flexible and open to change, even in the face of setbacks. Rather than being knocked off course by failure, we can adjust our path and keep moving forward. A key part of resilience is optimism, an outlook that, even when faced with challenges, holds on to the belief that things can and will improve. Optimism is not about denying the reality of difficulties, but about maintaining a forward-looking attitude in spite of them. Emotional intelligence fosters this kind of optimism because it allows us to manage the negative emotions that can cloud our thinking and make us lose hope. For example, consider someone who loses their job. This is a profoundly difficult experience, one that triggers a host of emotions: fear, insecurity, and grief for the loss of stability. Without emotional intelligence, these emotions can spiral out of control, leading to a sense of hopelessness and helplessness. But with emotional intelligence, a person can process these feelings in a healthier way. They might still feel scared and uncertain, but instead of becoming paralyzed by those feelings, they use them as motivation to take action. They might reach out to their network for support, update their resume, or start applying for new opportunities. Emotional intelligence helps them stay grounded, allowing them to maintain a sense of optimism even in difficult circumstances. Another essential aspect of emotional intelligence is empathy, the ability to understand and share the feelings of others. Empathy goes beyond simply recognizing what someone else is feeling. It involves truly stepping into their shoes and seeing the world from their perspective. This skill is fundamental in building strong, meaningful relationships, whether in personal life or the workplace. Empathy doesn't just improve our relationships, it also makes us better communicators. When we're able to understand the emotions driving someone else's behavior, we're better equipped to respond in ways that foster connection and understanding. This can be especially important in conflict situations where emotions run high and misunderstandings are common. Take, for example, a manager who has to deliver difficult feedback to an employee. Without empathy, the manager might simply focus on what the employee did wrong, delivering the message in a way that feels harsh or critical. The employee, feeling attacked, might become defensive or shut down entirely, making it harder for them to absorb the feedback and improve. But a manager with empathy would approach the situation differently. They would take the time to understand how the employee might feel hearing the feedback, perhaps embarrassed, anxious, or frustrated. With this understanding, the manager could deliver the feedback in a way that acknowledges the employee's emotions while still addressing the issues that need improvement. This not only helps the employee feel respected and valued, but also makes them more likely to engage with the feedback and take steps to improve. Empathy is also crucial in fostering diversity and inclusion. both in the workplace and in society at large. When we're able to understand and appreciate the experiences and emotions of people from different backgrounds, we're more likely to create environments where everyone feels seen and heard. Emotional intelligence helps us recognize our own biases and assumptions, making us more open to different perspectives and more compassionate in our interactions with others. In personal relationships, empathy is what allows us to connect deeply with the people we care about. It's what enables us to comfort a friend who's going through a tough time, to celebrate a loved one's successes, or to work through disagreements with a partner. Without empathy, relationships can become shallow and transactional, lacking the emotional depth that makes them truly fulfilling. But when we cultivate empathy, we create space for vulnerability and connection, strengthening the bonds that sustain us. In the context of leadership, empathy is a game changer. Leaders who lack empathy often struggle to inspire loyalty and trust in their teams. They may be focused on results, but fail to understand the emotional needs of their employees, leading to disengagement, burnout, and high turnover. On the other hand, empathetic leaders are able to build strong, motivated teams because they understand that people are not just workers. They're human beings with emotions, needs, and challenges. By showing that they care about their team members as individuals, empathetic leaders create a sense of belonging and commitment that drives both personal and organizational success. But empathy isn't just about understanding others. It's also about understanding ourselves. Emotional intelligence helps us develop self-empathy, the ability to be kind and compassionate toward ourselves when we're struggling. In a world that often values perfection and productivity above all else, it's easy to be our own harshest critic, judging ourselves harshly for every mistake or shortcoming. But emotional intelligence teaches us to approach ourselves with the same empathy we would offer a friend. When we're able to acknowledge our own emotions and treat ourselves with kindness, we build the inner resilience needed to navigate life's ups and downs. Self-empathy is especially important when it comes to dealing with guilt and shame, two of the most challenging emotions we can experience. Guilt arises when we feel we've done something wrong, while shame goes deeper, making us feel that we are fundamentally flawed or unworthy. Without emotional intelligence, these emotions can become overwhelming, leading us to spiral into self-blame and despair. But with self-empathy, we can process guilt and shame in a healthier way. We can acknowledge the emotions, take responsibility for our actions, and learn from the experience without letting it define who we are. This ability to navigate guilt and shame is critical for personal growth. When we're able to learn from our mistakes without being consumed by them, we open ourselves up to new possibilities. Emotional intelligence helps us see failure not as a reflection of our worth, but as an opportunity to grow and improve. At its core, emotional intelligence is about connection with ourselves and connection with others. It's about recognizing that our emotions are not obstacles to be overcome, but powerful tools that can guide us toward a more fulfilling, authentic life. When we cultivate emotional intelligence, we gain the ability to navigate the complexities of human emotion with grace and compassion, both for ourselves and for those around us. In a world that often feels divided and disconnected, emotional intelligence is more important than ever. It's what allows us to bridge the gaps between us, to see each other not as competitors or adversaries, but as fellow human beings, each navigating our own emotional landscapes. By developing emotional intelligence, we not only improve our own lives, but also contribute to a more empathetic, connected world. As we continue to explore the depths of emotional intelligence, it becomes clear that this is not a skill we master overnight. It's a lifelong journey, one that requires constant reflection, practice, and growth. But as we embark on this journey, we discover that the rewards are profound. Emotional intelligence gives us the tools to create a life that is not just successful, but also meaningful. A life where we are able to navigate challenges with resilience, build deep and lasting connections, and approach ourselves and others with compassion and understanding. In the end, emotional intelligence is not just about managing our emotions, it's about mastering the art of living well. Emotional intelligence also encompasses how we respond to stress, a near constant companion in modern life. Whether it's the pressures of work, family responsibilities, or even the broader social and political tensions of our time, stress is something we all face. But not everyone handles stress the same way, and once again, emotional intelligence makes the difference between being overwhelmed and staying resilient. Stress, at its core, is a natural response to perceived threats. It triggers a fight-or-flight reaction in our bodies, preparing us to either confront danger or escape it. In the short term, this response can be helpful. It gives us the energy and focus we need to handle immediate challenges. But in today's world, where threats are often more psychological than physical, and where stress can linger for days, weeks, or even years, this constant state of alertness becomes harmful. Chronic stress wears down the body and mind, leading to burnout, anxiety, depression, and even physical illnesses like heart disease. Emotional intelligence plays a crucial role in how we manage stress because it helps us regulate our emotional responses to stressful situations. When we lack emotional intelligence, stress can take over, driving us to react impulsively or make decisions based on fear, anger, or frustration. We might lash out at others, withdraw from our responsibilities, or engage in unhealthy coping mechanisms like overeating, drinking, or procrastination. Over time, these reactions not only worsen the stress, but also create new problems, leading to a cycle of stress and poor decision-making. On the other hand, emotional intelligence allows us to approach stress with a sense of calm and clarity. It gives us the tools to step back from our immediate emotional reactions and assess the situation with a more balanced perspective. Instead of being driven by fear or frustration, we can ask ourselves, what's really going on here? What am I feeling and why? How can I respond in a way that addresses the problem without making it worse? This ability to pause and reflect is key to managing stress effectively. It helps us avoid the knee-jerk reactions that often exacerbate stress and instead respond with thoughtful, constructive actions. For example, imagine a manager facing a tight deadline on a major project. Without emotional intelligence, they might panic, snapping at their team, or staying up all night to finish the work themselves. This approach not only harms their relationships with colleagues, but also leads to exhaustion, making it harder to perform well the next day. But with emotional intelligence, the manager might handle the situation differently. Instead of panicking, they take a moment to recognize their stress and its underlying causes. They acknowledge their fear of failure or letting others down, but instead of letting those feelings control them, they use them as a prompt to take productive action. They might delegate tasks more effectively, communicate openly with their team about the challenges, and prioritize the most important work. By managing their emotional response to the stress, they not only improve their own well-being, but also create a more positive and productive environment for their team. A key aspect of managing stress through emotional intelligence is self-awareness. Self-awareness involves recognizing our emotional triggers, those situations or people that tend to set us off, and understanding how our emotions influence our thoughts and actions. Without self-awareness, we can become trapped in reactive patterns, repeating the same mistakes over and over again. But when we cultivate self-awareness, we gain the ability to step outside of our habitual reactions and make more conscious choices about how we respond to stress. For example, someone who is aware that they tend to get anxious in social situations might prepare themselves mentally before attending a networking event. They might practice calming techniques like deep breathing or visualization to help them stay grounded in the moment. This self-awareness helps them manage their stress more effectively, allowing them to engage in the event with greater ease and confidence. Emotional intelligence also involves developing healthy coping mechanisms for stress. Instead of turning to unhealthy habits like overeating or avoiding problems, emotionally intelligent people seek out constructive ways to manage their stress. This might include practices like mindfulness, physical exercise, journaling, or talking to a trusted friend or therapist. These activities help to regulate the nervous system, calming the body's stress response and creating space for reflection and problem-solving. Mindfulness, in particular, is a powerful tool for managing stress. At its core, mindfulness is about paying attention to the present moment without judgment. It encourages us to observe our thoughts and feelings without getting caught up in them, allowing us to create a sense of distance between ourselves and our emotional reactions. This distance gives us the perspective we need to respond to stress with greater clarity and calm. Research has shown that mindfulness can reduce the body's stress response, lower cortisol levels, the stress hormone, and improve overall emotional well-being. By incorporating mindfulness into our daily lives, we can build resilience to stress, making it easier to navigate life's challenges without becoming overwhelmed. Another important component of emotional intelligence in stress management is empathy, both for others and for ourselves. When we're under stress, it's easy to become self-focused, consumed by our own worries and frustrations. But emotional intelligence reminds us that we're not alone in our struggles. By extending empathy to those around us, we not only build stronger relationships, but also shift our focus away from our own stress, creating a sense of connection and support. For example, imagine someone who is feeling stressed at work because of a difficult client. Without empathy, they might become frustrated and resentful, viewing the client as a source of their stress. But with empathy, they might take a moment to consider the client's perspective. Perhaps the client is under pressure from their own boss or dealing with personal issues. By acknowledging the client's emotions, the person is able to approach the situation with more understanding and patience, reducing their own stress in the process. Self-empathy is just as important. We're often our own harshest critics, especially when we're stressed. We tell ourselves we're not doing enough, that we should be able to handle things better, that we're failing. This self-criticism only adds to the stress, making it harder to cope. But when we practice self-empathy, we approach ourselves with kindness and understanding, recognizing that it's okay to struggle sometimes. This doesn't mean we excuse poor behavior or avoid responsibility, but it does mean we give ourselves the grace to be human, to make mistakes, to feel overwhelmed, and to take breaks when we need them. Self-empathy helps us build resilience to stress by reducing the internal pressure we place on ourselves. It allows us to acknowledge our emotions without being consumed by them, giving us the space to reflect and respond thoughtfully. Over time, this self-compassion creates a foundation of emotional strength that helps us navigate stress with greater ease and flexibility. In addition to self-awareness and empathy, emotional intelligence also involves the ability to regulate our emotions in the moment. This is perhaps the most challenging aspect of emotional intelligence because it requires us to manage our immediate emotional reactions, those intense bursts of anger, fear, or frustration that can arise in stressful situations. Emotion regulation doesn't mean suppressing or denying our emotions. On the contrary, it's about recognizing our emotions and finding healthy ways to express them. For example, someone who feels angry might take a moment to cool down before responding to a difficult email, or they might channel their anger into a productive conversation about how to resolve the issue. This kind of emotional regulation allows us to act in ways that align with our values and goals, even when we're under stress. Emotional regulation also involves knowing when to seek help. No matter how emotionally intelligent we are, there will be times when stress feels overwhelming and we need support from others. Whether it's talking to a therapist, reaching out to a friend, or asking for help at work, emotional intelligence helps us recognize when we need to lean on others. This willingness to ask for support not only helps us manage stress more effectively, but also strengthens our relationships, creating a network of support that can help us through difficult times. Ultimately, emotional intelligence transforms our relationship with stress. It doesn't eliminate stress. No amount of emotional intelligence can make life free of challenges. But it does give us the tools to handle stress in a way that promotes growth rather than burnout. It helps us stay grounded, connected, and resilient, even in the face of adversity. As we cultivate emotional intelligence, we discover that stress is not something to be feared or avoided. Instead, it becomes a source of insight and opportunity, a signal that something in our life needs attention. By listening to our emotions and responding with empathy, self-awareness, and regulation, we turn stress into a stepping stone toward greater emotional resilience and well-being. In a world where stress is often unavoidable, emotional intelligence is the key to not only surviving, but thriving. It helps us navigate the pressures of modern life with grace, compassion, and resilience, allowing us to live more balanced, fulfilling lives. Emotional intelligence extends beyond how we manage stress and our internal emotions. It plays a vital role in our relationships with others, whether personal, professional, or casual encounters. This ability to navigate social dynamics, understand and respond to the emotions of those around us, and communicate effectively forms the backbone of emotionally intelligent relationships. At the heart of this social aspect of emotional intelligence is empathy. Empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of another. It's more than just being sympathetic. It's about truly putting ourselves in someone else's shoes and seeing the world from their perspective. This skill is crucial because our relationships depend on our ability to connect with others on an emotional level. Without empathy, relationships become cold, transactional, or shallow, lacking the deep emotional connection that fosters trust, cooperation, and mutual respect. But empathy doesn't come naturally to everyone, nor is it a fixed trait. It's a skill that can be cultivated over time with intentional effort. One of the first steps in developing empathy is becoming better at listening, not just hearing the words someone says, but paying attention to their tone, body language, and the emotions behind their words. In emotionally intelligent conversations, people aren't just waiting for their turn to speak. They're actively trying to understand the feelings and concerns of the other person. Take, for example, a workplace conflict. Without empathy, a disagreement over a project can quickly spiral into personal resentment. Each person may become entrenched in their perspective, more focused on proving themselves right than resolving the issue. But when empathy is present, the dynamic shifts. Both parties can step back and ask themselves, what is the other person feeling? Why might they be reacting this way? This understanding creates space for a more constructive conversation, where both individuals feel heard and respected, making it easier to find a solution that works for everyone. Empathy also plays a crucial role in conflict resolution. When people are emotionally intelligent, they can acknowledge the emotions that drive a conflict, whether it's fear, frustration, or hurt, and address those feelings directly. This doesn't mean avoiding difficult conversations or glossing over problems. Instead, it means approaching conflicts with a mindset of understanding and collaboration, rather than blame or defensiveness. For instance, imagine two colleagues who have clashed over how to handle a project deadline. Without emotional intelligence, the argument might become personal, with each person accusing the other of being uncooperative or irresponsible. But with empathy, each person can recognize the underlying emotions at play. Perhaps one colleague feels overwhelmed by their workload, while the other feels anxious about meeting the deadline. By addressing these emotions, rather than just the surface-level disagreement, the colleagues can work together to find a solution that addresses both of their concerns. Emotional intelligence in relationships also involves setting and respecting boundaries. This aspect often gets overlooked because people associate emotional intelligence with being kind or agreeable. But part of being emotionally intelligent is knowing when to say no, recognizing when a relationship or situation is becoming emotionally draining, and being able to assert your needs without feeling guilty. This ability to set healthy boundaries is crucial because it ensures that relationships remain balanced and mutually respectful. Consider a friendship where one person constantly asks for favors or emotional support, but rarely offers anything in return. Without emotional intelligence, the other person might continue to give, feeling resentful but unsure how to address the imbalance. They may fear that setting boundaries will harm the friendship or make them seem selfish, but an emotionally intelligent approach would recognize that healthy relationships require give and take. By setting boundaries, politely but firmly, the person can communicate their needs and create a more balanced dynamic where both parties feel valued and respected. Emotional intelligence also helps us recognize and manage our own emotional triggers in relationships. Everyone has emotional buttons that, when pressed, can lead to outsized reactions. Maybe it's a certain tone of voice, a particular criticism, or even a feeling of being ignored. Without emotional intelligence, these triggers can lead to recurring conflicts or misunderstandings. We may lash out in anger, withdraw emotionally, or hold on to grudges, creating a cycle of negativity in our relationships. However, when we're emotionally intelligent, we can recognize these triggers for what they are, emotional reactions that often have more to do with our past experiences than the present situation. This awareness gives us the ability to pause before reacting, to ask ourselves, why am I feeling this way? Is my reaction proportional to the situation? By doing so, we can respond to our emotions in a more measured way, avoiding unnecessary conflict and improving our relationships. One of the most powerful aspects of emotional intelligence is its ability to help us build trust in our relationships. Trust is the foundation of any healthy relationship, whether it's a marriage, a friendship, or a professional partnership. Without trust, relationships are fragile, easily shattered by miscommunication or misunderstandings. But emotional intelligence fosters trust by promoting open, honest communication and creating an environment where both parties feel safe to express their feelings. Emotionally intelligent people don't shy away from difficult conversations. Instead, they approach these conversations with empathy, patience, and a willingness to listen. They recognize that trust is built through vulnerability, by being open about their own feelings and creating space for others to do the same. This openness not only strengthens the emotional bond in relationships, but also makes it easier to navigate challenges and setbacks. For example, in a romantic relationship, trust might be tested when one partner feels neglected or unappreciated. Without emotional intelligence, this feeling might fester, leading to passive-aggressive behavior or outright hostility. But with emotional intelligence, the partner can address the issue directly, expressing their feelings without blame or accusation. They might say, "I've been feeling a bit disconnected lately, and I miss spending time together. Can we talk about how we can make more time for each other?" This kind of honest, emotionally intelligent communication creates an opportunity to rebuild trust and strengthen the relationship. In professional relationships, trust is equally important. Whether you're working with a colleague, managing a team, or collaborating on a project, emotional intelligence helps create a work environment where people feel valued and understood. Emotionally intelligent leaders, for example, don't just give orders or demand results. They take the time to understand their team's needs, provide support, and create an atmosphere of mutual respect. This not only builds trust, but also leads to better collaboration, higher morale, and greater productivity. Building trust also means being reliable, doing what you say you're going to do, and being consistent in your words and actions. Emotionally intelligent people understand the importance of keeping their commitments, whether it's meeting a deadline, showing up for a friend in need, or following through on a promise. This reliability fosters trust because it shows others that they can count on you, even in challenging situations. In addition to trust, emotional intelligence helps us navigate the complexities of power dynamics in relationships. Power dynamics are present in all relationships, whether it's the unequal power between a boss and an employee, the shifting dynamics in a friendship, or even the balance of power in romantic relationships. Emotional intelligence helps us recognize these dynamics and navigate them with care, ensuring that power is used responsibly and fairly. For example, in a workplace setting, a manager with high emotional intelligence is aware of the power they hold over their team. They use this power not to control or dominate, but to support and empower their employees. They provide clear expectations, offer constructive feedback, and create an environment where everyone feels valued and heard. This emotionally intelligent approach to leadership not only fosters trust and loyalty, but also creates a more positive and productive work environment. On the other hand, emotional intelligence also helps those in less powerful positions navigate these dynamics without feeling powerless. It teaches us to advocate for ourselves, set boundaries, and communicate our needs effectively, even when we don't hold all the cards in a relationship. This self-advocacy is crucial for maintaining balance and respect in relationships where power dynamics are at play. As we've seen, emotional intelligence touches every aspect of our relationships, from how we manage conflict, build trust, and navigate power dynamics, to how we empathize with others and set healthy boundaries. It's the key to creating and maintaining relationships that are not only functional, but deeply fulfilling. In our fast-paced, often disconnected world, emotionally intelligent relationships are more important than ever. They allow us to move beyond surface-level interactions and create meaningful connections that enrich our lives. They help us navigate the inevitable challenges that come with being human, whether it's dealing with stress, managing conflict, or simply understanding and supporting each other. Ultimately, emotional intelligence reminds us that we're all in this together, that our relationships are a source of strength, resilience, and growth. And as we continue to cultivate our emotional intelligence, we not only improve our own lives, but also contribute to a more compassionate, understanding, and connected world. Emotional intelligence is also key in navigating the complexities of emotions themselves. Emotions are powerful, and when left unchecked, they can easily overwhelm us, cloud our judgment, and lead to actions that we might later regret. This is where emotional regulation comes into play, a fundamental aspect of emotional intelligence. Emotional regulation is the ability to manage our emotions effectively, to remain in control of how we respond to what life throws our way. This doesn't mean suppressing emotions or pretending they don't exist. Instead, it's about acknowledging and accepting them, but not letting them dictate our actions. It's the difference between feeling angry and lashing out, or feeling angry and taking a deep breath, calming down, and then responding in a way that is constructive rather than destructive. One of the key components of emotional regulation is self-awareness. Without an understanding of our emotional states, it's impossible to regulate them. Self-awareness allows us to notice when we're starting to feel overwhelmed, anxious, or angry. It gives us a moment of pause, a chance to step back and observe our emotions before they take over. This is crucial because emotions, especially the negative ones like fear, anger, and sadness, can be incredibly strong, and when we act on them impulsively, the results are often damaging, both to ourselves and to those around us. Take, for instance, the emotion of anger. Anger is a natural response to perceived injustice or frustration, but it can quickly escalate into rage if not managed properly. When anger takes over, it can lead to shouting, insults, or even violence, none of which resolves the underlying issue. Emotional intelligence teaches us to recognize when anger is building, to understand why we're feeling angry, and to channel that energy into a response that is assertive but controlled. This might mean taking a moment to cool off, talking through the issue calmly, or finding a compromise that addresses the root of the anger. Similarly, emotional regulation plays a critical role in managing stress. Stress is an inevitable part of life, but how we deal with it makes all the difference. People with high emotional intelligence are able to recognize when they're feeling stressed, identify the source of the stress, and take steps to mitigate it before it spirals out of control. This might involve practicing mindfulness, seeking support from friends or colleagues, or breaking down a stressful task into more manageable pieces. Whatever the strategy, the goal is the same: to prevent stress from taking over and affecting other areas of life, such as work, relationships, or health. Another important aspect of emotional regulation is understanding that emotions, while powerful, are temporary. No emotion lasts forever, even though it might feel all-consuming in the moment. By reminding ourselves that our feelings will pass, we can avoid getting stuck in negative emotional cycles. This perspective allows us to tolerate uncomfortable emotions without reacting impulsively, knowing that we'll soon feel differently. It's a skill that takes practice, but over time, it can become second nature. Emotional intelligence also involves what psychologists refer to as emotional agility, a concept popularized by Harvard psychologist Susan David. Emotional agility is the ability to experience our thoughts and emotions in a way that doesn't derail us, but rather helps us move forward with purpose and clarity. It's about being flexible with our emotions, acknowledging them, but not allowing them to dictate our actions or define our identity. Instead of getting stuck in emotional patterns, emotionally agile people are able to adapt to changing circumstances, take action in alignment with their values, and bounce back from setbacks more quickly. This ability to remain emotionally agile is especially important in times of change or uncertainty. Life is unpredictable, and it's during these moments that our emotional intelligence is truly tested. Whether it's the loss of a job, the end of a relationship, or a sudden health crisis, our emotional responses can be intense, and without the skills to manage them, we can easily become overwhelmed or paralyzed by fear. Emotional intelligence teaches us to stay grounded during these times, to remain connected to our inner strength and resilience, and to navigate the storm with grace. One of the hallmarks of emotional agility is the ability to embrace discomfort. Emotions like sadness, anxiety, or frustration are often seen as negative, something to avoid or push away. But in reality, these emotions are a natural part of the human experience. By learning to sit with uncomfortable emotions rather than avoiding them or trying to numb them, we build emotional resilience. This doesn't mean wallowing in negativity or allowing ourselves to be consumed by it. Rather, it means recognizing that these emotions have something to teach us, and by facing them head-on, we come out stronger on the other side. For example, when we experience sadness, it's often a signal that something meaningful has been lost, whether it's a person, an opportunity, or a dream. Instead of trying to snap out of it or distract ourselves with work or entertainment, emotional intelligence encourages us to lean into that sadness, to process it fully. This might mean allowing ourselves to grieve, talking about our feelings with a trusted friend, or simply taking the time to reflect on what the loss means to us. By honoring our emotions in this way, we not only heal more completely, but also grow emotionally and spiritually. Emotional intelligence also equips us to deal with fear, another powerful emotion that can easily take control if left unchecked. Fear is a natural response to perceived danger, but in today's world, many of our fears are not life-threatening, they're psychological. We fear failure, rejection, uncertainty, and even success. These fears, while not physically harmful, can still be incredibly debilitating, preventing us from taking risks, pursuing our goals, or stepping outside of our comfort zone. Emotionally intelligent individuals understand that fear is a natural part of the process of growth and change. They don't allow fear to paralyze them or hold them back. Instead, they face their fears head-on, recognizing that the discomfort of fear is temporary, but the rewards of pushing through it are lasting. This doesn't mean being fearless. It means having the courage to move forward in spite of fear, trusting that we have the inner resources to handle whatever comes our way. Emotional intelligence also fosters a growth mindset, the belief that we can learn and grow from every experience, no matter how challenging. This mindset is crucial for emotional resilience because it allows us to view setbacks not as failures, but as opportunities for learning and improvement. When we approach life with a growth mindset, we're less likely to be derailed by negative emotions or difficult situations. Instead, we see them as part of the journey, a necessary step on the path to becoming a stronger, more capable version of ourselves. The impact of emotional intelligence on our overall well-being cannot be overstated. Research has consistently shown that individuals with higher emotional intelligence tend to have better mental health, stronger relationships, and greater success in their personal and professional lives. They are more resilient in the face of adversity, better able to manage stress, and more likely to experience a sense of fulfillment and purpose in life. This is because emotional intelligence allows us to live more authentically. When we are in tune with our emotions, we are better able to align our actions with our values, making choices that are true to who we are, rather than being driven by fear, insecurity, or the expectations of others. We become more grounded, more centered, and more confident in our ability to navigate life's challenges. At its core, emotional intelligence is about connection, both with ourselves and with others. It's about understanding our own emotions, managing them in a way that serves us, and using that understanding to build deeper, more meaningful relationships with those around us. It's about being human, embracing the full spectrum of our emotional experience and using it as a source of strength, wisdom, and growth. Emotional intelligence is not only about personal growth, it extends outward into the relationships we build and maintain with others. In fact, one of the most crucial applications of emotional intelligence lies in the realm of social interactions. People with high emotional intelligence are often better communicators, more empathetic, and more adept at navigating complex social dynamics, all of which contribute to healthier, more fulfilling relationships. Empathy, one of the cornerstones of emotional intelligence, plays a pivotal role in how we connect with others. It's the ability to understand and share the feelings of another person, to put ourselves in their shoes and see the world from their perspective. Empathy goes beyond simply recognizing someone's emotions. It involves feeling with them, offering support, and showing that we care. This is what creates deep bonds between individuals, whether in friendships, romantic relationships, or professional environments. One of the most profound effects of empathy is the creation of trust. When people feel that they are truly understood, they are more likely to open up, share their thoughts and feelings, and develop a sense of closeness with the other person. This is why emotionally intelligent people often have stronger, more intimate relationships. They are attuned to the emotional needs of others and respond with kindness, compassion, and understanding, which fosters an environment of mutual respect and trust. Consider how empathy plays out in conflict situations. In any relationship, conflicts are inevitable. However, how these conflicts are handled can either strengthen or weaken the bond between individuals. Emotionally intelligent individuals are skilled at managing conflict in a way that is constructive rather than destructive. They understand that anger and frustration are natural reactions, but they also know how to approach these emotions in a way that leads to resolution rather than escalation. For example, during a disagreement, an emotionally intelligent person might take a step back, pause, and try to understand the other person's perspective before reacting. They might ask questions to clarify the other person's feelings or needs, and they'll express their own emotions calmly and assertively without resorting to blame or criticism. This approach not only diffuses tension, but also opens the door to deeper understanding and connection. Both parties feel heard and respected, which makes it easier to find common ground and move forward. In contrast, when emotional intelligence is lacking, conflicts often spiral out of control. Without the ability to regulate emotions or empathize with the other person, individuals may become defensive, lash out, or withdraw entirely. These reactions only serve to widen the gap between people, leaving both parties feeling misunderstood, hurt, or resentful. Over time, unresolved conflicts can erode the foundation of trust in a relationship, leading to a breakdown in communication and connection. Effective communication is another key aspect of emotional intelligence in relationships. Emotionally intelligent individuals are skilled communicators, not because they are always eloquent or articulate, but because they understand the emotional subtext of conversations. They know how to listen actively, paying attention not just to the words being spoken, but to the tone, body language, and underlying emotions of the speaker. This allows them to respond in a way that is attuned to the other person's emotional state. Active listening is a powerful tool in communication. It involves being fully present in the conversation, giving the speaker your undivided attention, and responding in a way that shows you are engaged and understanding. This might include asking thoughtful questions, reflecting back what the other person has said, or offering empathy and support. Active listening fosters a sense of connection and validation, which strengthens the relationship. Furthermore, emotionally intelligent people are also mindful of how they express their own emotions. They are aware of how their words and actions might affect others, and take care to communicate in a way that is respectful, clear, and constructive. This is especially important in difficult conversations where emotions may run high. Instead of reacting impulsively or letting their emotions take over, emotionally intelligent individuals approach these conversations with patience, openness, and a willingness to listen and collaborate on a solution. Another important aspect of emotional intelligence in relationships is the ability to set healthy boundaries. Boundaries are essential for maintaining balance and respect in any relationship, yet they can be difficult to establish and maintain, especially when emotions are involved. Emotionally intelligent individuals understand the importance of boundaries, both for themselves and for others. They are able to communicate their needs and limits clearly without feeling guilty or fearing rejection. At the same time, they respect the boundaries of others, recognizing that every person has a right to their own space, time, and emotional well-being. Setting boundaries requires a high degree of self-awareness, as well as the ability to manage emotions like guilt, fear, or resentment. It can be challenging to say no or to ask for what we need, especially if we are concerned about how the other person will react. However, emotionally intelligent people understand that boundaries are not about creating distance or shutting people out. Rather, they are about creating a sense of mutual respect and understanding. By setting clear boundaries, we are able to maintain our own emotional health while also fostering healthier, more balanced relationships. Emotionally intelligent individuals also know how to manage the give and take that is inherent in all relationships. They are generous with their time, energy, and support, but they also recognize the importance of reciprocity. Healthy relationships are built on a foundation of mutual care and consideration. When one person is consistently giving more than they receive, resentment and burnout can develop. Emotionally intelligent people are mindful of this balance, ensuring that their relationships are equitable and that both parties feel valued and supported. In the workplace, emotional intelligence is just as critical. Leaders with high emotional intelligence are often more effective because they are able to connect with their team on a deeper level. They understand that leadership is not just about giving orders or making decisions. It's about inspiring, motivating, and supporting others. Emotionally intelligent leaders are empathetic, approachable, and skilled at managing the emotional dynamics of their team. They create a positive work environment where people feel valued, respected, and motivated to do their best. Moreover, emotional intelligence is essential for collaboration. In today's increasingly interconnected world, the ability to work well with others is more important than ever. Collaboration requires not only technical skills, but also the ability to navigate the complex emotions that arise when people work together. Emotionally intelligent individuals are able to manage their own emotions in the face of challenges or disagreements, and they are also able to understand and respond to the emotions of others. This allows them to build strong, collaborative relationships and work effectively as part of a team. Ultimately, emotional intelligence is about building connections with ourselves, with others, and with the world around us. It is the ability to navigate the emotional landscape of life with awareness, empathy, and grace. In doing so, we are able to build stronger, more fulfilling relationships, achieve greater success in our personal and professional lives, and experience a deeper sense of purpose and well-being. Emotionally intelligent individuals are not immune to the challenges and difficulties of life, but they are better equipped to handle them. They understand that emotions are a natural and important part of the human experience, and they embrace their emotions as a source of strength and wisdom. Through self-awareness, emotional regulation, empathy, and effective communication, they are able to navigate life's ups and downs with resilience, compassion, and confidence. In a world that often values intellect and technical skills above all else, emotional intelligence reminds us of the importance of the heart. It teaches us that true success is not just about what we achieve, but about how we feel, how we connect with others, and how we navigate the emotional currents of life. Emotional intelligence is not just a skill to be learned, it is a way of being, a way of living with authenticity, empathy, and emotional awareness. By cultivating emotional intelligence, we open ourselves up to a richer, more meaningful life, one where we are able to connect deeply with ourselves and others, navigate challenges with grace, and find fulfillment in our relationships, work, and personal growth. Emotional intelligence is not a fixed trait, but rather a set of skills that can be developed and honed over time. Like any other form of intelligence, it requires practice, reflection, and commitment. Those who invest time in cultivating their emotional intelligence find that it enhances not only their personal lives, but also their professional success and overall well-being. One of the most powerful aspects of emotional intelligence is its ability to foster resilience. Life is full of challenges, setbacks, and unexpected changes. How we respond to these difficulties often determines our ability to thrive, even in the face of adversity. Emotionally intelligent individuals possess a unique ability to bounce back from hardships because they have learned how to regulate their emotions and maintain a balanced perspective, even when things go wrong. Resilience is not about ignoring or suppressing emotions, but rather about acknowledging them, processing them, and then taking thoughtful, constructive action. Emotionally intelligent people recognize that emotions are fleeting, and even the most intense feelings will eventually pass. This awareness allows them to maintain a sense of calm and control, even in the midst of turmoil. For example, when faced with a major setback, such as losing a job or experiencing the end of a significant relationship, a person with high emotional intelligence will take the time to fully process their emotions before deciding how to move forward. They may allow themselves to feel sadness, anger, or frustration, but they do not let these emotions consume them. Instead, they engage in self-reflection to understand what they can learn from the situation, and they develop a plan for how to navigate the challenges ahead. This approach not only helps them cope with the immediate emotional impact, but also sets the stage for future growth and success. Resilience also involves maintaining a positive outlook, even in the face of difficulty. Emotionally intelligent individuals understand that their mindset plays a crucial role in how they experience and overcome challenges. While they may acknowledge the reality of a difficult situation, they choose to focus on what they can control and look for opportunities for growth and learning. This optimistic yet realistic mindset enables them to face challenges with a sense of hope and determination, rather than feeling overwhelmed or defeated. Another important component of emotional intelligence is self-compassion. In a world that often emphasizes achievement, success, and perfection, it can be easy to fall into the trap of self-criticism when things don't go as planned. However, emotionally intelligent individuals practice self-compassion by treating themselves with kindness, understanding, and forgiveness, especially in times of failure or struggle. Self-compassion involves recognizing that everyone makes mistakes and experiences difficulties, and that these challenges are part of the shared human experience. Instead of beating themselves up for their perceived shortcomings, emotionally intelligent people acknowledge their imperfections and treat themselves with the same kindness they would offer to a friend in need. This self-compassion not only helps them recover from setbacks more quickly, but also fosters a healthier, more positive relationship with themselves. In addition to resilience and self-compassion, emotional intelligence also enhances our ability to pursue meaningful goals. People with high emotional intelligence are often more motivated and driven to achieve their objectives because they have a clear understanding of what matters most to them. They are in touch with their values, passions, and long-term aspirations, which allows them to set goals that align with their true desires. Moreover, emotionally intelligent individuals are adept at managing the emotional challenges that inevitably arise on the path to achieving their goals. They know that pursuing meaningful goals often requires perseverance, patience, and the ability to manage frustration, disappointment, and uncertainty. Rather than giving up at the first sign of difficulty, they remain focused on their vision and use their emotional intelligence to stay motivated, even when the road ahead is tough. For instance, Imagine someone working toward a challenging career goal, such as starting their own business. Along the way, they may face numerous obstacles, such as financial setbacks, competition, or self-doubt. A person with high emotional intelligence will acknowledge these challenges and the emotions that accompany them, but they will not allow these emotions to derail their progress. Instead, they will use their emotional intelligence to stay grounded, manage their stress, and maintain a clear focus on their long-term vision. Another crucial aspect of emotional intelligence is the ability to adapt to change. In today's fast-paced world, change is inevitable, whether it's a shift in our personal circumstances, a change in the workplace, or a broader societal transformation. Emotionally intelligent individuals are better equipped to navigate these changes because they are flexible, open-minded, and resilient in the face of uncertainty. Adapting to change requires a combination of self-awareness, emotional regulation, and empathy. Emotionally intelligent people recognize when they are feeling resistant or anxious about change, and they take steps to manage these emotions in a healthy way. They also understand that change often brings new opportunities for growth and learning, and they are willing to embrace the unknown with curiosity and an open heart. Additionally, emotionally intelligent individuals are skilled at managing the emotions of others during times of change. Whether they are leading a team through a transition or supporting a loved one through a difficult period, they are able to offer empathy, understanding, and reassurance. They know that change can be difficult for everyone involved, and they take the time to listen to others' concerns, validate their feelings, and provide emotional support. In the workplace, emotional intelligence is increasingly recognized as a critical factor for success. While technical skills and expertise are important, it is emotional intelligence that often sets top performers apart from their peers. Emotionally intelligent employees are better communicators, more collaborative, and more adaptable to change, making them invaluable assets to any organization. Leaders with high emotional intelligence are especially effective because they are able to inspire, motivate, and connect with their teams on a deeper level. They understand that leadership is not just about giving orders or making decisions. It's about creating an environment where people feel valued, supported, and empowered to do their best work. Emotionally intelligent leaders are skilled at managing their own emotions, which allows them to remain calm and composed under pressure. They are also able to recognize and address the emotional needs of their team members, whether it's offering encouragement, providing constructive feedback, or helping to resolve conflicts. This emotional attunement fosters a positive work culture where employees feel engaged, motivated, and committed to the organization's goals. Furthermore, emotional intelligence is essential for effective collaboration in the workplace. In today's increasingly interconnected world, the ability to work well with others is more important than ever. Emotionally intelligent individuals are able to navigate the complexities of team dynamics, manage conflicts, and build strong collaborative relationships. They are open to feedback, willing to listen to others' perspectives, and skilled at finding common ground. In addition to fostering better relationships, emotional intelligence also enhances decision-making. Emotionally intelligent individuals are able to integrate both logic and emotion into their decision-making process. They recognize that emotions provide valuable information, but they also know how to step back, analyze the situation, and make thoughtful, balanced decisions. This ability to balance emotion and reason allows them to make more informed, effective choices, both in their personal and professional lives. As we continue to navigate the complexities of modern life, emotional intelligence will only become more important. It is not just a tool for personal growth, but a vital skill for building stronger relationships, achieving success, and contributing to a more compassionate and connected world. In essence, emotional intelligence is about living in harmony with ourselves and others. It's about understanding and managing our emotions in a way that enhances our lives and the lives of those around us. Through self-awareness, emotional regulation, empathy, and effective communication, we can navigate life's challenges with grace, build meaningful relationships, and achieve our goals with confidence. As we strive to cultivate emotional intelligence, we open ourselves to a deeper, more fulfilling experience of life, one where we are connected not only to our own emotions, but to the emotions of others, where we can navigate challenges with resilience and empathy, and where we can create a world that is more compassionate, understanding, and emotionally intelligent. Developing emotional intelligence is a journey that requires continuous reflection, learning, and growth. As we enhance our ability to recognize and manage emotions, we deepen our connection to ourselves and those around us. The benefits of emotional intelligence extend far beyond our personal well-being. It influences how we engage with the world, build relationships, and contribute to society. In our fast-paced, interconnected world, emotional intelligence is a guiding force that helps us remain centered, compassionate, and resilient. It allows us to navigate life's inevitable ups and downs with clarity and purpose, transforming challenges into opportunities for growth. By nurturing emotional intelligence in ourselves and others, we can create a more harmonious and empathetic society, one where emotions are understood, respected, and channeled for the greater good.